I'll take you through the cautionary statements. And on April 26th, we announced a material transaction with the acquisition of Roxgold. On slide 5 here, we have some of the highlights. We're basically creating a platform for low-cost production. We are creating a company that if you're an investor in the intermediate precious metals space, it will be hard for you not to consider the pro forma company. We're bringing together quality assets. And post-transaction, the combined company will have a production of approximately 450,000 ounces of gold equivalents, but more importantly, at an all-in sustaining cost of under $1,000 per ounce. Something that as CEO I'm most excited about is the fact that we are bringing together two quality teams, operating teams, exploration teams, really two business platforms guided by what I call these overachievers, teams that have excelled each on their own jurisdiction. So we're bringing key executives from the Roxgold team under the Fortuna umbrella. And again, as CEO, that's something I'm most excited about. We are creating a diversified complementary portfolio of assets with a projected EBITDA from sales of $500 million, but more importantly, operating with an EBITDA margin in the range of 40 to 50%. If you look at the Q1 performance of Fortuna in Q1, we generated sales of $117 million in the quarter, EBITDA of $60 million, but our EBITDA margin was at 52%. We beat street estimates for earnings per share. The consensus was 10 cents. We came in at 14 cents per share. So what we have here is in Fortuna is a robust business platform in the precious metal space with high margins. And we like Roxgold because it's constructive on that, quality assets with high margins. So we are bringing together strength on strength. We have an attractive near-term free cash flow profile with a robust pipeline of high upside exploration assets. The Roxgold assets is something that exhibit, and I invite you to look at that if you're not acquainted with the company, is a tremendous success that Roxgold has been exhibiting on the exploration front. We have high degrees of conviction on the upside of all of the properties, the producing properties, the exploration package on the Roxgold portfolio. The combined company will benefit from a larger size, and even now more than ever, size in the business does matter. All management groups in the natural resource space have to meet heightened standards with respect to governance, ESG, and a high margin business and size is what makes for companies to effectively deliver on those heightened expectations from our investor base. And also important and something to highlight here is that Fortuna, on a pro forma basis, will retain a significant silver contribution to revenue. And we remain committed to silver. Out of 9 drill rigs turning today in the Americas, 8 are pursuing silver opportunities. So we remain committed to silver, and that's something I'm going to elaborate more as we go down the presentation. But more importantly than silver, which we love, is we are committed to a healthy business of high margins in the precious metal space. In slide 6, we share some of the benefits to Fortuna shareholders and Roxgold shareholders on the transaction. A lot of the things that we indicate here in the slide I already mentioned. But on the Roxgold side, if there is something I can highlight, is the fact that in the combined entity, we are de-risking the business moving forward and lowering the cost of capital, no? From a larger production umbrella, from a larger production base, the risks associated to facing the construction of Seguela, which is imminent in the third quarter. We believe that construction decision will be made on the Seguela project. The balance sheet of the new company makes the funding requirements completely manageable from the balance sheet perspective. And instead of relying on one source of free cash, being the Yaramoko mine, the pro forma company will have a free cash flow generation coming from 4 mines immediately after transaction. Right? On slide 7, we share the footprint for the company, for the pro forma company. Will be operating throughout the Americas and in West Africa. I have received over the course of the last weeks since announcement, again on April 26th, questions about why West Africa? And the market tends to box us as a Latin American operator or a West African operator or a North American operator, or sometimes the market tends to put us in a box by commodity type, a gold producer, a copper producer, or a silver producer. And that's easy to understand and manage from the investor perspective. But what we are proposing here is that you view us as a value investor, because at the core, that's what we are. We believe the value proposition of bringing these 2 companies together is immense. It ticks all the boxes. And although West Africa is across the ocean, literally, across the Atlantic, it is a mining jurisdiction. We're not just going anywhere. The largest gold producer in the world is China, with about 380 tons of gold produced a year. If we group the production of this small geographic area, which is West Africa, and we add the production of Ghana, Burkina, Cote d'Ivoire, Mali, Senegal, it amounts to about 360 tons annually. Right behind China and ahead of countries like Australia, Canada, the US, Russia, Peru. So this small geographic area is over the last years has consolidated as one of the most exciting jurisdictions or regions for gold production. There is no other region in the world that exhibits the type of growth in gold production and resources in the ground that West Africa does. On a pro forma basis, looking at the bar charts here on the upper left, here leading all-in sustaining cost under $1,000. Gold production, as I stated at the beginning of the presentation, in the range of 450,000 ounces of gold immediately after the transaction closes. EBITDA in the lower left-hand bar chart, peer-leading EBITDAs in the range of $500 million. More importantly, all of this translates into healthy free cash flows, no? And that's what we show in the bar chart on the lower right hand. I'll stop here in slide 9 for a minute to talk about silver contribution to revenue, which is important to a lot of our investors. On the upper left-hand chart, we show the pro forma silver contribution to revenue for various companies. So on the right, we show the pro forma Fortuna, and on top of the bar, you see a 22%. That's the silver contribution to revenue for 2021. In the first quarter of the year, our silver contribution to revenue as a standalone entity was 39%. So yes, our silver contribution to revenue will drop post-transaction as gold production increases. Gold contribution to revenue increases. So silver contribution moving forward will be around 22%, 25% in that range. But if you look at other silver producers like Hochschild Mining, where silver contribution is 40%, Core Mining, another silver producer with silver contribution of 25%, Pan American Silver with silver contribution of 34%, Pan American being an iconic silver producer, Hecla, 25%. So the conundrum for silver producers is how you grow your business, maintaining the health of your business, and also an attractive silver exposure. And it's very difficult. And that's why we see most silver producers gradually over time gravitating towards more gold production. And the key here is maintaining the health of the business, maintaining the high margins of the business. And as I stated at the beginning, as much as we love silver, whatever asset we bring into our portfolio needs to meet certain very key criteria, like EBITDA margin, for example, a simple one. No, low cost, high margins assets. In slide 10, this would be the portfolio pyramid for the pro forma company, where you see 4 operating mines, a development project in Séguéla. Séguéla is a most exciting development project. It's a permitted feasibility stage project, primed for a construction decision in the third quarter of this year. Séguéla for the next years will be producing about 130,000 ounces of gold a year for the initial 6 years, with a life of mine projection of 9 and tremendous exploration upside. At the bottom of the pyramid, we see the combined company's exploration portfolio with Bosura at the top. Bosura is in Burkina. It's a very exciting advanced exploration project where the Roxgold team right now is expecting to produce a first resource estimate in the second half of the year. And below that, just a diversified portfolio of exploration opportunities throughout West Africa and the Americas. With 2 groups of overachievers, two operating teams that have proven themselves as successful operators, being able to develop, build, and operate successfully, each in their own jurisdiction. So Paul Cridell, as Chief Operating Officer in Roxgold, will remain as Chief Operating Officer in the combined company, looking after African operations. Paul Wheaton, a key individual for the success of the exploration programs Roxgold exhibits over the last years, also remains as VP Exploration West Africa. Eric Gratton, who is the man based in Abidjan in Côte d'Ivoire, who spearheads the relationships with the Burkinabe and Côte d'Ivoire governments, also remains with the team, and all the cadre of officers and employees that make Roxgold a successful business every day on the operations and exploration side. And of course, the Fortuna team, right, which is known, and again, our track records show for the excellence in delivery that we continuously show. Looking at our operations, just a quick run, our newest mine, Lindero, which is currently in the final stages of ramp up in Argentina. It's a large gold copper porphyry, so it's an open pit heap leach operation. So no, I was just giving a brief run through our Lindero mine in Argentina, which is in the final stages of ramp up. And here we show an exciting exploration opportunity we have within our property at Lindero, which is. So, just moving through the slides, what we try to show is the exploration potential in our properties here at San Jose, where we have multiple exploration opportunities. We're drilling on the immediate vicinity of existing resources and reserves in the underground mine, and also pursuing multiple other opportunities in the greater land package, right? And here at the Cayoma mine, also a well-developed vein system where we're as well pursuing opportunities near and around our resources, and also in other veins in the greater district. And we also have greenfields initiatives in the Americas, mainly in Mexico and Argentina today. We're currently drilling the Santa Fe project in the state of Sonora in Mexico. And we're preparing to drill the Baborigami and the Cerro Lindo project in Argentina. Moving on to West Africa, as I stated at the beginning of the presentation, it's just a well-endowed the endowment of gold in this Birimian greenstone belt has led the region to be ranked as the largest growing region in the world in terms of gold production and gold resources in the ground. And the company Roxgold has the Yaramoko mine in production, the Bosura as an advanced exploration project, both in Burkina, and Seguela, which is the development project I mentioned earlier. Yaramoko is a 1,500 ton per day underground mine that produces approximately 120,000 ounces a year. It currently has a life of mine reserve for 7 years. And Seguela, which is a permitted development stage project, a construction decision is expected in the third quarter of this year. Something we are most excited about and have high degrees of conviction is the exploration potential on all of the Roxgold properties. This slide here, 21, shares with you a new discovery in the Seguela complex, which is the project. Seguela is composed of various deposits, like Antena and Cien, and Kula here, which was discovered in September of last year, and as the team there has been able to quickly advance it and included in the recently published feasibility study. The feasibility study for Seguela is dated in early April. But here results speak for themselves. Here what you see is noticeable. Worth noting is 4 meters with 100 grams gold, 13 meters with 4 grams, 15 meters with 24 grams. And I can go on and on and on. It's a high-grade, near-surface system that remains open at depth. And just like Kula, they have a recent discovery also called Sandberg, which is not at the research stage yet. But at Seguela, they have 36,000 hectares, which exhibits tremendous exploration potential. That's something we're most excited about. So in addition to Seguela, there is Bosura, and in Burkina, which is also a very exciting high-grade type deposit. And I can easily envision this project, Bosura, moving ahead into early stages of scoping, engineering, in 18 months with some luck with the drill bit. And the company has 250,000 hectares in multiple concessions spread throughout the Virimian Greenstone Belt, this very productive rock assemblage in Côte d'Ivoire. Slide 23, just some highlights on the pro forma company capitalization. The liquidity position of the company would be around 200 million immediately after transaction closes. And something worth highlighting here again is the debt to EBITDA in the company would be, below 0.5. No, so some transactions put pressure or even compromise the balance sheet. In this case, we retain a lot of strength on the balance sheet throughout this combination, in spite of the capital requirements for Seguela. The capital for Seguela is estimated at around 150 million. Production on a pro forma basis, 70% of production would come from the Americas and about 30% from West Africa. And in slide 24 here, we show some of the metrics that we already mentioned. No? The combined EBITDA, around $500 million a year, strong free cash flow generation, growing every year, and the very competitive all-in sustaining cost at under $1,000 per ounce. This slide just presents some comparables. I invite you to look at it in our website. This presentation is available on our website, but shows, how the company would rank among the peer group of companies. Also some comparables and a pie chart showing the geographic breakdown of gold in gold equivalents in reserves and gold production. Right? So in summary, what we're doing here is creating an intermediate producer, a diversified global intermediate producer with industry-leading margins, and with a reserve base of 4 million ounces of gold equivalents, with additional resources of 1 million ounces equivalent, with average, with estimated EBITDAs in the range of $500 million, but more importantly, with EBITDA margins in the range of 40 to 50%, which is something we treasure in our business, those healthy margins. So with that, I will conclude the presentation, Mark, and sorry for the inconvenience with the connection. I am in Peru right now, and I don't enjoy the best internet connection.
I appreciate that, Jorge. Thank you. We did get some great information, and this is the nature of our world today as we all gather virtually, but I appreciate your patience as well, and sharing all the insights and the wisdom that you've brought to the group today. We actually have a great list of questions that have been coming in, so we'll just get moving into the question and answer period. Our first question up here is, what was the rationale behind the announcement of the business combination with Roxgold, and when did the due diligence process begin?
Yes, I'll start with the second part of your question. Roxgold is an old acquaintance of us. And to give you briefly background, in 2015, I did a screening, a worldwide screening for the highest grade silver and gold deposits and mines in the world. We scratched out of that list the jurisdictions where we wouldn't go, like Russia, China, and there are many places where we will not do business. And Roxgold was one of the companies that remained. So back in 2015, I took to the endeavor of traveling, visiting the assets, getting to know the management groups. And that's when we first became acquainted. 2015 was not the time for neither them nor us to do a deal. But I was always impressed by the quality of the assets, but more importantly, by the quality of the team. I think John Dorward put together an A team, and I always kept an eye on a watch on how they grew their business, and I think they did the same with us, and it was easy to become reacquainted back in October of last year when we started moving on some of the M&A initiatives that we had. And really, the value proposition that we see in Roxgold, it's, I believe, hard to match. even though it's a geographic departure for us, even though it's in some eyes a commodity departure, moving from silver more into a gold asset. What we propose here is that we look at the fundamental value here.
Yes.
And the margins of the business. To put simply, you create value over time in this business by identifying quality assets and delivering operational and financial discipline. Mm-hmm. But everything starts with the quality of the assets.
Understood.
And the jurisdiction as a departure, I don't see it as such, because West Africa, even though it's far away from Latin America, it's a mining jurisdiction. It's a place where you can effectively permit and develop and operate your mines.
Correct.
And so from that perspective, I don't find it as a big departure. Yes, there are different complexities, and that's why we have make sure that we have retained the core team of executives that make Roxgold a successful company every day. Right?
Yes, absolutely. Well, and again, the assumption that is there a concern in the silver space is actually diversification and growth. There's quite a positive approach to this, which sounds very, very logical to me.
And Fortuna retains a significant contribution of silver in the revenue at around 20, 25, 30%, depending what prices are doing. And we continue committed to identifying more silver assets in the Americas. But you know what? A good silver asset, it's something you discover. It's seldom something you can just go buy. That's why silver is so scarce.
Wonderful. Thank you for that perspective. I'd love to find out from an investor perspective, can you provide an update for us, please, Jorge, on the COVID situation in Argentina and the direct impact on the current ramp-up phase at Linder?
Yes. Argentina has been hit hard by COVID, and has been one of the countries in the region with that has implemented the most restrictions on citizens and foreign travel. So that has had a big impact and created a big challenge for our local team. As you can imagine, in a commissioning and ramp-up phase, you're usually working shoulder to shoulder with your technicians and foreign vendor representatives.
Yes.
You bring equipment from abroad, and the vendors and provide technical support with vendor technicians. The country has been and remains largely closed to foreigners.
Yes.
So our team has been doing an excellent work, but usually problems that would be solved in a matter of hours or even days end up taking days or weeks, because it takes a lot of Zoom hours to explain a problem over Zoom and things like that. But the team is doing a great job, and as I said at the beginning, the mine has been free cash flowing positive since the first month of production. Excellent. And we are there. We are out of the woods with the ramp up, and the equipment is fit for purpose, and the performance is going well.
Great to hear that it's been a global situation, obviously, and I know everyone's hopeful to see things shift into a better space. So I'm glad to hear some of those points. Thank you very much. If I could, Jim asks, could we please comment on Fortuna's take on the potential impact of the Peruvian elections on the company's investments and operations in the country? How about that first?
Yes. Not only Peru, but Mexico as well has had an election on Sunday. The election process is not over yet. The election is too close to call. And I expect they will be counting votes and contesting votes, the different groups, for probably well into next week. I don't expect this will be called off this week. No, so the difference between the two candidates is 70,000 votes or something like that right now.
Not a simple situation.
No. But there is a candidate which has a position and stand that is not as favorable to investment as presented today. But you know what? We run our business in countries that have deep-rooted mining traditions. 60% of all dollars that come into the country come from mining. Peru is, as you know, the fifth largest gold producer, the second largest copper producer, the third largest zinc producer, the fourth largest lead producer, a very important tin producer. So, I think mining will continue to be a good business, and politics in these developing nations is a pendulum, swings to the left, swings to the right. But mining has always been a big part of the Peruvian culture and economy, and I expect it will continue to be the case.
I appreciate that. I would think these are temporary moments in the journey as opposed to the long journey that the big picture view. So I appreciate that very much. Another question comes in. Starting in 2022, does Fortuna intend to maintain its ratio of exploration spending as a percentage of revenue, or could this ratio increase?
No. Right now, we're spending in our budget. We have in our budget around 4.5% of sales allocated to exploration. And that is taking us to what our normal rate of investment in exploration, which we dropped in the last 2 years because we were allocating capital to the Lindero construction in Argentina. So we had to shortchange our exploration for 2 years. Just as a reference, in 2017, our drilling meterage was 30,000 meters across all of our properties. In 2020, it was 8,000 meters. It's clearly not enough to replace reserves and deal with depletion and all of that. In 2021, our budget is 55,000 meters. So that's the rate of drilling and spending, investment, that a company of our size needs to sustain. So I would expect that 4.5% of sales from a much larger base of sales that we would have now I see that as sustainable moving forward.
Terrific. Thank you for that. A question comes, where do you see Fortuna in, say, 3 to 5 years?
Post-transaction, Fortuna in 3 to 5 years, Fortuna will be operating 6 mines. And those are mines that come from our portfolio, from the pro forma portfolio. Immediately after transaction, Fortuna will be operating 4 mines. And Seguela, the development project, advancing into construction. So within 24 months and change, will be at 5 mines. And I have high expectations on Bosura, which is evolving as a very exciting exploration property. And as I said before, I believe that in 18 months, it wouldn't be surprising to see Bosura advancing to some level of scoping, right? So in a few years, I think that we have a robust pipeline. We would have a robust pipeline of opportunities to continue growing organically, which is what yields the biggest opportunities to create best value for investors, right?
I appreciate that. Yeah, we look forward to seeing where that goes. We do have a question asking around the catalyst for potential rebound. Can you share from this perspective and the acceleration in share price? What are your thoughts on that?
Yes. We announced the transaction on April 26th, and the shares dropped, 17-18%. That's what you are exposed to when you offer a company of our size with the type of liquidity that we have. Announces a transaction with a 40% premium. You just open the door to arbitrage players and traders to come in. So what I have seen in the first days after announcement is traders taking the initiative in the market with respect to our share price or share movements. And as time has elapsed, I see more investors taking the initiative now, right? So I see the upper hand was by the traders in the initial days, and now trading is fading away, and we're gradually seeing the investors coming back. So the fundamentals for the business we're presenting to our investors are very sound. And we're starting to see the positive write-ups, and people understanding and meeting with us and understanding what is it that we're doing here, right? And seeing the rationale, the fundamentals, and everybody clicks to the story. I have to say that at the beginning, we found that dislocation between the type of feedback we were getting from investors
Yes.
and the market performance immediately after announcement.
Oh,
So
right.
it has been hard to find who is selling the shares because in the initial days, because the feedback was positive from our investor base,
I
largely
see.
positive.
Yeah.
And we see, I believe, a confirmation of that as days elapse. And in good days, Fortuna trades well with the market, and in bad market days, Fortuna shows resilience, right? So, I believe as the market starts understanding more and more the fundamentals here, what this means. And again, the key takeaway here is I believe that if you're an investor in the precious metal space, you'll be hard pressed not to give serious consideration to a pro forma company just based on the strength of the margins of the business and the quality of the assets and the organic potential growth for potential. It will be just very difficult not to give serious consideration to Fortuna.
Very fair. And of course, you're speaking to a community of investors. So I appreciate the point about traders versus investors as we have the community here listening in. Thank you for that.
Yes.
A question comes as well, Jorge. Any plans to instate a dividend policy?
Yes. For us, it's not a question of if, but when.
Okay.
And in an ever depleting business, which is our business, mining, the question is not when do you implement the dividend, is when can you implement a sustainable dividend?
Understood.
Right? Yeah. So for us, the question of sustainability on the dividend is fundamental, and that's something that you have to really work hard to build. And I would value investors getting in our shoes, but we have to deal with the depletion of the assets, invest heavily. But Fortuna, slowly but steadily, has been putting together a platform of assets, where we can start to see the opportunities to institute that type of dividend, a sustainable dividend, a meaningful and sustainable dividend. Lindero, which is now in production, will be producing gold for 15 years at least.
Okay.
No? Seguela, coming along with the Roxgold portfolio. The LOM is for 9 years plus, because we have high expectations on the exploration potential. You see Bosura coming in. You see Yaramoko extending life of mine, or projections for San Jose in Mexico and Cayoma in Peru. So with that kind of asset base and those kind of life of mines, it's now that we can seriously start talking about a sustainable dividend, which is, I believe, what should be in the minds of our investor. Not just a dividend, but pay me something that can be sustainable and meaningful. And that's something we've been working towards. And I believe this transaction is constructive on that, because of the quality of the assets, the margins of the business, and the exploration opportunities that we have within the portfolio.
I appreciate that. I hear depth and longevity, which are two key terms everyone's looking for in the world of investment. I appreciate that. Now, Jorge, just as we wind down, is there anything that we've missed or anything else that comes to mind to share for our audience today?
No, this is a big transaction for us. I believe is transformative, and we're just extremely excited about and really looking forward to capture all of this for the benefit of Roxgold shareholders and Fortuna shareholders. Right? I believe that there is a compelling value proposition here immediately for investors and moving forward as we grow the business together.
Wonderful. I appreciate that. It's always a pleasure, Jorge, to speak to the thought leaders behind a brand, behind a company that are making decisions, and to get that insight for us as we make choices on investment is always a wise move on our part to explore and to research. So thank you for what you've brought today. Much appreciated. And we'll wind down our session today.
A pleasure to be here, Mark.